If you could fly, What's good? What's good? What's good? Hope everybody's doing good out there in TV land. Hold up. Let me take a sip with a whole that pause. That's it right there. Hold up. Put it down. All right. Hope everybody's doing good out there in TV land, but you are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. I am your host, Kyng Ralph, doing a solo dolo show. It's Friday, 7 p.m. Friday, 95 degrees. But before we get started, send a shout out to the sponsors. I got another sponsor coming, waiting to receive the product so I can give you my honest opinion on it. But if you want to do a podcast like what you're watching, music video, photo shoot, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707-FIT-BOXER. And then make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Trying to get to 50 subscribers. I got 2 days before. I'm trying to do about before the end of the month. So help me out. Please. But make sure you go on Facebook, like the He Say, She Say channel. He Say, She Say podcast coming back in October. I'm going to start production in September, so next month. But make sure you go subscribe on YouTube as well at Juke Media. Or you could just type in Joint Universal Creatives with a K. Help us get to that 50 subscribers by the end of the month. Follow us at Juke Sports Show on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch at KYNGRALPH at an underscore for X or Twitter. And let's jump into it, man. These wide receivers out here trying to get to the bag, and I don't blame them. So CeeDee Lamb signs his contract extension. Ayuk signs his contract extension. Now it's time for Jamarr Chase to try to get his bag. It's been reported that he will not be showing up until he is the highest paid. I seen Ocho Cinco Nightcap say that that's not necessarily the case from what he knows, and he has a personal relationship with Jamarr Chase. And so I think it's good that these players are getting their money. The only thing for me is when it comes to team building, and I talked about it last week when it comes to players sacrificing their bread. I think if you're going to pay Joe Burrow $50 million a year, then it's been reported that Jamarr wants what Justin Jefferson got, so $40 million a year. $90 million between just two positions is crazy to me. And I just don't see that being sustainable for long-term success. By all means, every player, get your bread, make your money, create generational wealth, which is what everybody talks about on every podcast and every sports media narrative. It's a big narrative going on right now. But I just feel like when it comes to winning championships, spending that type of money is the only thing that I kind of give a little pause to. Like Fred Warner, when his contract is up, would deserve top linebacker money. Ayuk getting $30 million. Deebo Samuel's getting his money. George Kittle getting his money. Trent Williams is trying to get his money right now. McCaffrey is the highest paid running back. Nick Bosa was the highest paid defensive end when he got his money. I've talked about on my rankings earlier in the week, Charvarius Ward being one of the top 10 corners in the league. Hufanga and what he's been able to do, being one of the top safeties in the league. When you have the top 10 person at their position all throughout the team, it's kind of hard for everybody to be the highest paid. So by all means, get your bread. But at the same time, I think when it comes to sustainability and long-term success, you do got to think about how much money as a GM you're spending on each individual player. So it's a tough job for these GMs out here, but they're getting it done. These wide receivers are getting to the bag this summer and this offseason. So we'll see what happens with Jamarr Chase because he showed up to practice, but he's holding in. He's not holding out. And so Colorado, the college football season is up and running. It's going strong. A couple teams went crazy, went at it over the I think it was yesterday. And so on Sunday we got USC, LSU. But right now we're going to talk about Colorado plays North Dakota State. Outlast them 31-26. And there's a lot of good storylines coming from it. There's a little bit of pause that I have because of who they're playing. And we talked about them last year and how they started off hot. Then when they got to the really good teams, they got blown out. And so them struggling with North Dakota State, the game was in hand. It was a Hail Mary at the end that came up short. Was the only reason why I looked even any kind of close. And then a random interception that the Shador throws where it bounces off a North Dakota State player's leg, pops in the air, and it gets intercepted. But outside of that, on the defensive end and running the ball, it's still the problem. I feel like pass coverage is their strong suit. Run stopping is their weakness on defense, which was a reoccurring theme yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but last year. Last year, they weren't able to get after the quarterback. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that and their ability to get after the quarterback. But this year, Shador throws, or this game, 26 of 34 attempts, 445 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a random-ass interception. Travis Hunter, crazy touchdown catch where he runs a mediocre route, gets jammed, but he's able to stay focused and make the catch. 7 receptions, 132 yards with 3 tubs. And then Jimmy Horn Jr., 7 receptions, almost 200 yards with 198 yards and a touchdown. So offensively, they did what they were supposed to do. But if you notice, I didn't mention anybody that runs the football. And that was a weakness last year. So I just don't think they're going to be able to. I hate to be a negative Nancy here because everybody's talking about Travis Hunter. I've seen his Heisman odds were cut in half just simply from this game. Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter have both been talked about as possible number 1 picks for this next year, this next draft coming up after this game. But there's just things for the team itself that maybe they just play down to their competition and they'll play up when they get to the better teams within their record. But they had a good offensive outing. It's just defensively, you shouldn't be giving up 26 points to North Dakota State when you got hopes of making a college football playoff. And so that's the only thing for me is I got a little bit of pause for that, but at the same time, they did their thing, put up numbers. Travis Hunter has a highlight touchdown catch. Like I said, I don't think he ran the best route. He's trying to run a fade, gets jammed, back shoulder is a little bit inside. It's a bad throw as well, but he makes an adjustment, stays focused, and makes the catch. Heck of a catch, though, by the way. And so Dwight Howard was on Gil's Arena, and him being a defensive big, Kenyon Martin being another defensive big, they spoke about Rudy Gobert. And I think the one thing that within this conversation that gets had is there's a difference between the conversation of Rudy Gobert being one of the greatest defensive players of all time and him just being a good defender. And I think Dwight Howard is someone that I speak highly when it comes to defensive basketball, specifically when it comes to your bigs. And being able to switch out on that high pick and roll, being able to make it difficult in the rim or in the paint, protecting the rim, being able to guard your man one-on-one. And those are things for me is why personally I think Rudy Gobert is just he's not one of the great defensive players of the year. And I hate the fact that he got 4 defensive players of the year because now you're putting him in a category with Akeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, 20 years from now, the way that things are with this society, we're looking at stats for a lot of things where I'm more so, I put stats with the eye test. So it's like 10, 15 years from now, people that didn't see Dwight play, they're going to look at it and be like, well, Rudy Gobert has more Defensive Player of the Year awards, so he's a better defender. And that's just not the case. Being a person that is like Dikembe, Dwight, Akeem Olajuwon, those were players that when you were going to go to the rim and you got in the paint, these were people that you had to worry about blocking your shot. Or if they switched onto you, you were afraid or you had to be worried about them. Now it's to a point where Rudy Gobert is just getting abused. He got abused in the Olympics to the point where they didn't play him. He got abused in the playoffs against the Clippers. Last year, he was getting abused by the Mavs. And I just think year after year, when it really comes down to it, you can't be the Defensive Player of the Year and then be the weak link in your armor on the defensive end. And I just feel like those are the things where I don't think he gets overly criticized. I just feel like too often people pay attention to the negative things that are said about him and not necessarily the positive things, because it makes it seem like he's not a good defender, where he is a good defender, but in the team scheme of things. But as an individual, is he going to shut down? Can you put him on your big on the team's best player or the team's other big, and can he shut them down? Like Dwight, even being older, go back to that bubble championship run and look at what he did against Jokic. He made it difficult. Now Jokic still did his numbers, but he wasn't as efficient as he was in other playoff runs. And so those are the things for me that I think when we start to talk about Defensive Player of the Year, who's the best player and whatnot, we got to have that conversation, because you can't be a liability on defense and be the Defensive Player of the Year. Even though I feel like Defensive Player of the Year, you should be able to put him on whoever is scoring a bunch of points and make it difficult on him. Not saying shut him down, but if it takes 20 shot attempts typically for them to get their 25 to 30, make them shoot 30 shots to get that same 30. 25 to 30 shots to get that same 30. And I think that that's the job of a tough defender. Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson come to an agreement, reconstruct his contract, frees up $35.832 million, $35.832 million, not 35 million plus, you know what I mean? It's salary cap space, because this year coming up, they got Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, Elijah Moore, as well as Jedrick Willis Jr., who is left tackle for the Cleveland Browns, all up for salary cap or for free agency this upcoming offseason. This season starts, so to be the following offseason is when these players will be up for free agency. And like I just said, these are things that are conversations in which I feel like to go a little deeper on what I was talking about earlier, if you have someone who is like Joe Burrow, who people feel like he can take less and do more with, it's like the same conversation of like, all right, we've seen Pat Mahomes lose Tyreek Hill, lose Juju Smith, have a really not the best wide receiver core and still get to a Super Bowl and win. Brock Purdy, we've seen him step in and do well, but then when Trent Williams goes down, Christian McCaffrey goes down, George Kittle gets hurt. Now Brock Purdy has a string of games where he struggles. So now it's like, all right, when Brock Purdy's contract is up, I'm not necessarily if I'm the GM, I'm not going to pay him top of the line quarterback money just because you're the next quarterback up. I'm going to think about the structure of my team. I'm willing to pay you $50 million a year, but that means I'm not going to be able to have the best wide receivers in the league. Where if I'm going to have the best wide receivers in the league, I can't pay you top quarterback money because you're not the best. You're not the best quarterback. And that's the thing for me where I feel like we got to have these conversations with people where I get it, make your bread. I want everybody to make their money, but we got to be realistic at the end of the day. Deshaun Watson has not met or even matched the hype that came with that contract. He hasn't met up to it. He hasn't lived up to it. And so him being and realizing like, all right, let me restructure this a little bit to where it creates space for me to be able to keep a lot of my key players that help me succeed on the offensive side of the ball. And so Amari Cooper, who I think is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL, Elijah Moore, who has a lot of hype, Nick Chubb, who's before his crazy knee injury last year, I felt like was one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best, when it comes to just strictly running the football. And then you have a good young left tackle who I believe this is his first contract after his rookie deal. And so being able to keep that talent to be able to compete in that AFC North, which is by a lot of counts the toughest division in football. And so I feel like this is a smart move by Deshaun Watson. I don't necessarily blame him for doing it. And so I think in the end, I think it should work out, but we'll see what happens. Nick Chubb is coming off a crazy knee injury. Amari Cooper has been in talks of he was rumored to be in the trade for Ayuk if the Browns had pulled the trigger or if the 49ers had pulled the trigger on that trade. So we'll see what happens, but I think that this is a good move, and I think it's a good, especially with the type of money that players are getting now. I know it sounds like a lot, but if I'm gonna get 30 million versus 40 million, I'm gonna take the 30 so I can keep some of my better players on the team. And so we get into the part where we got the off top. Later on today, I believe it's 4:30 Pacific time. The Indiana Fever go up against the Chicago Sky. Every time those two teams go up against each other, they do numbers. I'm very much looking forward to this game because ESPN had just released their rookie rankings, and they have Angel Reese at 1. Although Angel Reese has struggled at times when it comes to around the rim efficiency, which I personally feel like it ain't that big a deal. I think that in these rookie years, we're paying too much attention and trying to make it seem like this is supposed to be their finished product. Where going into the year, I talked about how I felt like Angel Reese needed to develop her mid-range face-up game when it comes on the offensive end. I never worried about her as a defender or a rebounder. I felt like those things would translate because those are more about effort and your motor, which she has a crazy motor that I seen this stat the other day that even if you took away her rebounding her own misses, she would still be second to only Asia Wilson, who is the front runner for MVP, and it's not even close. I'm tired of seeing the whole Caitlin Clark being in that conversation. She's not the MVP. Relax. She'll be in some MVPs. She'll be around for a minute. But let's just chill and focus on the task at hand. And so focusing on the task at hand right now, let me look it up. Let me see what the WNBA standings are looking like because so right now, the Fever are about 3 games ahead, 3.5 games ahead of the Chicago Sky. And so when it comes down to it, when it comes to playoff positioning, this is going to be a matchup that to see who eventually gets the Rookie of the Year and also gets into the playoffs. And so, like I said, based on this game, when I do my rookie ranking for next week, is essentially whoever wins this game and plays well is where I'm going to have them ranked next week when I do my rookie ranking. And so sticking with Angel Reese, I was trying to give me some swag the other day, give me some drip. I went on Reebok. Reebok had a little deal with T-Mobile Tuesday. So I go on there, try to go ahead, look at some shoes, and I'm looking at some stuff, and I see Angel Reese got some shoes. And so this leads me to my rant. I always hear women, and I'm not saying that this is a women thing. This is definitely just a Reebok company thing, but women have always said we need more men to support the sport. Now, as a person that's supporting the sport, I want to get Angel Reese's shoes. I go on the website. The highest size they got is on women's 11. I wear a size 12 in men's. I want Angel Reese's shoes. I want to show support. I think they kind of fire. They got like a little bit of that chunky skater shoe look. And it's like a metallic silver with like a light blue like accent on it. I think they fire. I'm really rocking with them. I want to buy them. I would have bought them, but I'm not able to buy them in my size. So for me, that's disappointing as a person that wants to show support and show some love to the ladies. I get it. She's a woman. And so you're probably more so trying to sell to the female market. But at the same time, like Camila is a 6'8" woman. I know she don't got no size 11 foot. So I feel like you should ask someone on her team is a perfect example of, I'm sure as a person that's in the WNBA or in the W, as they call it, she has access to things that the average person wouldn't have access to. But I just feel like as a man or male that's trying to support the W, I want the shoe. Why can't I have a shoe in my size? It's disappointing. It is what it is, I guess. Maybe I'm talking to the wall at this point. And then I think with I already put that on there. Yep. With the last topic of the day before we got to get up out of here. But Yabusele, big man for France, balls out in the Olympics. Gabby Williams balled out for France as well. Both of them signed to their respective American professional leagues. Yabusele is a stretch four, big body that can play the five, an undersized five, but he can stretch the floor next to a center, and he's going to be paired with the perfect center. Joel Embiid, he signs a 1-year deal with the Sixers. Now you have him, KJ. I believe they got Drummond back, and now you have Joel Embiid, where you can move things around. You can play bigger lineups. You can play smaller lineups. And I feel like he gives them a lot of versatility, where Gabby Williams signs with a Seattle Storm team, and I feel like that team is loaded, in my personal opinion. Right now, they're fourth in the W right now, but you put them up with Agumake, Joel Lloyd, Ezi Magbagor, who I had being the Defensive Player of the Year going into the season. And then now you got Gabby Williams after doing what she was able to do against where she was, I believe she was, even if she had hit the shot, she would have tied it, but I think she hit the shot and then didn't get the shot off against the USA team who had been blowing everybody else out. And she was definitely the main cog in making that happen. And so her signing with the Seattle Storm has been a little bit of a little kerfuffle about nothing, honestly. I do see where she's coming from, though. I do think that that's a rule that the W owners need to come to an agreement on and relax on. If you're not going to pay your players good enough, you can't then have a rule that if they don't report to the W by the end of training camp, that they can't play for the rest of the team for the rest of the year. If you paid me a salary where I didn't need to go overseas to play, then I wouldn't need to be over there in the first place to be able to get back here in the perfect timing, I guess, or the timing that you want. Fix that, and then I'll fix this. And I feel like that's the point where I think the point that she's trying to make is that we're not the center of the world like the way that we feel like we are. And so I would like to see that change, but I do think that both of them doing what they did in the Olympics is one of the reasons, or is the reason why they've got these opportunities that they have. I think Gabby was essentially going to come back regardless because she's just such a talented player. I think Yabusele, I haven't seen him in the league since he played with the Celtics. When Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown first got drafted, he was on those teams. And so I feel like I'm happy to see both of them get their opportunities. Yabusele went from dunking on LeBron's, and now he's a Sixer. And Gabby Williams almost single-handedly beat the USA team. And so thank you all for watching. I got to get up out of here. Hope you all enjoy the game. Make sure you go watch that Chicago Sky Indiana Fever game. Those games are lit every time. But like I mentioned at the beginning, make sure you go like the He Say, She Say channel on Facebook. The He Say, She Say podcast coming back in October. We start production next month. Make sure you go and subscribe at Juke Media on YouTube, or you can just type in Joint Universal Creatives. Creatives with a K. We're trying to get to 50 subscribers by the end of the month. I got 2 more days left, so we're cutting it close, but I'm on my way there. I think I need 4 more subscribers to get to 50, so we are making some kind of progress. And then make sure you go subscribe, not subscribe, but follow. Follow us on Instagram at Juke Sports Show. No more J.U.K. Just straight up Juke Sports Show on Instagram. Make sure you follow me at TikTok, Twitch, Instagram at KYNGRALPH. Add an underscore for X or Twitter. And like I always say, even though they're struggling right now, love, peace, and the Aces 3P.